I'm Barbara Fiese from the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, and today I'd like to talk about the approach to this class, which is an ecological approach. We use the 6C model to guide our work. And what I'd like to talk about is really transdisciplinary approaches in general. And an overview of the 6C model, some examples of this transdisciplinary research approach, and then some of the challenges that you face in doing transdisciplinary work. Transdisciplinary approaches are characterized by different ways of approaching the work. If you think about obesity in general, I mean, the common guide is that it's more calories in than out. And so you might go to a nutritionist, and a nutritionist will say, well, change your diet. In the field of childhood obesity, then we often take a developmental approach because we know that children of different ages think in different ways, they play in different ways, they behave in different ways at different ages. And so you might get a child developmentalist and a nutritionist working side by side to inform the work, and we think of that as sort of a multidisciplinary approach. But then we might want to add a kinesiologist to the mix, and so we have a child developmentalist, we have a nutritionist, and we have a kinesiologist, and we want them to sort of work jointly together in designing programs that would promote better health and well-being, and this is an interdisciplinary approach. But if we took those same three disciplines and had them think about creating new ways to work together, new ways to address the problem that goes beyond the confounds of their disciplines, so they actually create new methods, they create new ways of addressing the problems of obesity, then we would call this a transdisciplinary approach. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tell the difference between an interdisciplinary and a transdisciplinary approach, but it's really creating new frameworks, new questions that you could never address from a single discipline working by itself. The ecological model strives to be transdisciplinary, and it's a socio-ecological approach to studying obesity. It's a cell-to-community approach or a cell-to-country approach. So at the center of this is the recognition that our cells, our genes, our biology plays an important role in risk for obesity. And embedded in that is the child and their characteristics and their temperament. And the child, of course, is very much influenced by their clan or their family. And of course, the family then is very much influenced by the community in which they live. And the community, of course, is affected by the culture that surrounds us. And then the culture and the community where people live is also affected and regulated by the country and its rules and policies. So here you have some examples of how all of these systems actually work together in predicting the causes of obesity. So at the cellular level, we have our genes, and we know that there are certain genetic predispositions for becoming overweight or obese. And we also now are finding out that there are different genetic risks and different regulations for attention to satiety. So at a very basic biological level, we know that how we respond to food is regulated by our biological systems. At the child level, we are finding out that temperament and how children regulate their emotions can put them at greater risk for becoming overweight or obese. And that actually interacts then with the cellular level. At the family level or at the clan level, we know that how parents go about feeding their children, the kinds of styles that they use in feeding their children, and the regular forms of having meals together can either protect or put children at risk for developing obesity. At the community level, we know that access to food, access to healthy foods. Are you surrounded by convenience stores? Are you surrounded by fast food outlets? Or do you have access to fresh fruits and vegetables? That can very much affect your risk for obesity. At the culture level, we know that the traditions and beliefs of different cultures can affect the types of foods that you prefer and the types of foods that you are exposed to from a very, very early age. And then at the country level, level, we know that the types of food policies that are in place can greatly affect the types of foods that you have access to. So really the message is there's no single cause for obesity. They all operate at these different systems that interact with each other. So I just want to give you some examples of how we might begin to understand these different levels that contribute to obesity. At the cellular level, we see there are different genetic alleles that can put you at risk for obesity. And in this one study by Wang et al., they found that the more alleles that you have that are predisposed you to risk for obesity, then actually there were increases in BMI. In this next study, they found that parents who had insecure attachment relationships, that is, they kind of expected to be rejected by others, they were more likely to respond in a negative way to their child's signs of distress. And when they did that, their mealtime routines were disrupted, and their children were more likely to eat unhealthy foods. So you can see there are multiple systems at play here that predicted the child's consumption of unhealthy foods. In this last example, the researchers used GIS mapping to look at exposure to green space in families' neighborhoods. And what they found is that families that lived in greener neighborhoods, that is where there were more pocket parks, more access to green space, their children engaged in more physical activity. And their parents were more likely to transport their children to places where they could engage in physical activity, and their parents spent more time playing with their children. Now, what's interesting, there are lots of examples like this that use different levels of analysis, but these three studies that I showed to you all came from the same data set. And they were all researchers that used different approaches. Some of the researchers used a genetic approach. Some of the researchers used a family and child approach. Some of the researchers used a community approach to unravel all of the issues that go into predicting obesity. What this tells you is that transdisciplinary studies use a lot of different methods. They might use biological samples, they might use direct observation of behavior, they can use surveys, interviews, geomapping, or policy analysis. So you have to have a lot of tricks in your toolbox, but you as an individual researcher don't have to have them all. And that's why being able to work on large teams is so important, and being able to communicate. Transdisciplinary teams, typically there is a disciplinary knowledge that people bring to the team. So if you have an expertise in biology, that doesn't mean that you have to have expertise in geomapping. You're going to rely on somebody else. So you bring your own level of expertise. But you do have to have good collaborative skills. You do have to be able to listen to others. You have to be flexible, and you have to be able to develop a common language. And this is perhaps one of the most difficult challenges of working on transdisciplinary teams, is that because everyone brings their expertise from their own disciplines, they have their own jargon, they have their own way of talking about science, and they have their own methods. And so there's sort of a period of which you have to learn each other's language to develop these common goals. So as you spend the next period of time learning about the causes, the consequences, and the correlates of obesity, I hope you take this ecological model as a framework to understand how complex this issue is, but also that there is hope and tools out there to solve this very large problem. Thank you.